doing? Welcome to another episode of Is It Godly, guys. I hope you enjoyed the previous episode, and if you enjoyed, and guys, you have not subscribed, kindly subscribe, hit the notification bell for you to be notified each time I release a new video. Kwa wenyeji, asanteni sana for the love. For the new subscribers, again, karibuni sana. Please feel at home. Comment, share your story. Tell us of what you've learned. Tell us of what you've learned so far. And that will be a blessing to me. So guys, the previous videos, I talked about me being single and miserable. Guys, it was a hard time. And it took God to actually start being single and loving it. So on this episode, and maybe the next episode, we are going to be talking about how I started the journey of being single and loving it. Guys, it was not easy, but we reached there by the help of God. So guys, I remember where the game changed is when I found this book. It's called God had begun to lighten my heart up, because I realized actually God has a greater purpose for my life, especially when he began to use me in ministering. God used me in ways that sometimes I look and I'm like, wow, God, you're so powerful. I began to realize actually God has a greater purpose for my life than just living and dating and getting married and having children and one day dying. God had a greater purpose. Okay, marriage and all that were part of that purpose, but I realized there was something greater than the normal life. I don't know if that makes sense. God had a greater purpose for me than what I had limited my mind, or what I had actually just seen, or what I had experienced. God had greater and more for me. So I remember, guys, coming across this book called When God Writes Your Love Story. I don't remember where I got it from, but I guess someone forwarded it to me. And I read this book, and it was such a blessing. And it added up to what God had begun to reveal to me. And it is an amazing story of two lovebirds. And I believe that story has really changed so many people. Guys, after that book, I felt like emailing Leslie and Eric and telling them, guys, you have actually changed my life. I have read so many other books, so I might tell you a story from a different book that I actually do not remember. Because I remember after reading that book, I read so many other books about relationship that was so enriching, and they were such a blessing to me. And when I read this book, When Now God Writes Your Love Story, and I realized, wow, I was used to navigating love and dating on my own, and I realized, wow, God was actually concerned about who I marry, who I actually date. He was concerned about my life. I had begun walking with God, but I had not realized, it was such a profound revelation that, wow, God, you are actually concerned about who I marry and who I get to date. It was such a blessing. That book, sikuwa nimefikiria in that way. It actually made me realize, wow, you are actually concerned about who I date and who I marry. Wow, it was such a blessing. And I remember reading this book, and I began to realize, God, I was used to navigating life on my own. Life, the matters on love and dating on my own. I felt like God was not concerned about this part of my life. Why should you? I wondered. I felt like God was concerned about other greater things. Healing the sick, raising the dead, evangelizing and bringing more souls to God. I felt like he was concerned about such greater things, which he was helping me do it, and he was using me do it. But I never felt like he would come down to my level and actually be concerned about these personal things about my life. Guys, it was such a blessing. It was so mind-blowing to actually understand, wow, God, you're actually concerned. I know. So, I'm saying, me, I thought God was concerned about greater things, about global warming that is happening in which country, there is fights and people are killing each other. there's a disease that has come up. Like, I thought God was concerned about greater things in life, but I realized God was concerned about the tiny, let me call them the nitty-gritties in my life. Imagine, he was so concerned. And I remember I came across this verse that talks about God knows the exact number of strands of hair on my head. Such details in my life. Yani, I was like, wow. And I remember also coming across this verse that says he has engraved us on the palms of his hands. Like, God, are you for real? And I remember actually also, coming across this verse that says that we are the apple, that I am the apple of God's eye. Huh? Aye, God, you're too good to be real, Bana. Yani, for real. I'm the apple of God's eye. So whatever hurts me hurts him. And I looked back in my heartbreak story and I realized in those moments that when I allowed him, each day I felt pain, each day I cried. It was not easy for God also. I know. Haikuwa easy kwake. Like each day he tried to bind the wounds of my heart, heal me. It was also not easy for him. That's why he held my hand and decided, you know what, daughter, we are going to walk with you in this journey. It's not going to be easy, but we are going to walk with you. So I look back and realize, wow, God, you have been concerned all along. Those times that I did not eat, you were concerned. Those times that I cried and drenched my pillow with tears, you were concerned. I realized, wow. Somehow I was afraid that God was going to fix me with someone that I did not like. Like he was just going to look at a guy in church, a prayerful guy, who I did not like, how they talked and how they dressed. I thought that God was actually going to just fix me with some random guy in church who he loves. But I realized it was actually beyond that. And I remember this time in 2020, guys, I told you it was a blessing in disguise. In 2020, God opened my eyes, my inner eyes, to seeing what he saw in marriage. Like, to me, I had seen marriage just for, intimacy. And intimacy in this case, I mean for sex only. I knew God, and from Sunday school, and I knew sex before marriage was a sin. So I had not seen marriage beyond the sex and the intimacy. I had not seen marriage beyond that. But in 2020, God took me through that journey of understanding marriage beyond the sex, dating people beyond the physical, dating people beyond what they sounded like there was, I don't know how to say, but I began to see I'm not just dating someone for fun. I am dating someone to know them, that we may actually get married and continue to fulfill God's purpose in marriage. I began to realize that these things were actually beyond my thinking and beyond me. That God had seen the marriage for me beyond what I wanted, beyond my own self-gratification, beyond my own satisfaction, beyond all that. There was the purpose of God in my life, in the person I got to marry, in the person I got to date. There was something beyond what I saw it and beyond what I thought. I hope, guys, you're understanding, and I hope that makes sense. So I read this book, and I told you, I've begun to read other articles. For 2020, I think I read a million of articles of how people waited for their future husband, of how people enjoyed. I remember reading one article that was talking about this particular lady that was single until her 30s, and she was okay preaching the word. And I remember it is in that book, When God Writes Your Love Story, and I remember Leslie talking about that when they went to that wedding, it felt like it felt like Jesus himself was in that wedding, because this lady had walked with God, not caring so much about. I think, guys, sometimes we are so much concerned about, who do I get to? Like, we are so much consumed about these thoughts. We do not actually get to understand how single is a season that is an amazing season. So I've read this book. I've actually begun to realize, he may not be here right now, but I'm going to be happy. I am going to love God. I'm going to serve God. I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going to prepare myself for that dating period and that marriage period. I'm going to make sure that I learn all I can. And I remember coming across this story that Pastor Miles Monroe gave, and he was giving this analogy. You guys, if you know Miles Monroe, he really talked about marriages and relationships in a very beautiful way. So I remember him giving this story of when you want to start driving a car and you have never known how to drive, you actually go for a driving school. You go to driving school and you learn how to drive. You do the exam, you pass, you're given the license. When you want to become a nurse, you go to a nursing school for 4 years or whatever years. You learn, you do the licensing exam, you're given a license. When you want to become a certified accountant, you have to go to school, you have to learn, and later on be given the certificate for you to begin, exercising or being a certified accountant. But for us, when it comes to marriage, we don't want to learn and prepare for it, because I know people say there's no manual to marriage, but remember, it's something you've never done before. And I remember Miles Monroe was asking, why don't we want to actually prepare for marriage? Why don't we want to prepare for why don't you want to prepare for, marriage? Why don't we take time, be single, understand ourselves, pursue God as much as we can? I know pursuing God does not end in marriage when you get married, but cultivate that culture of praying, cultivate that culture of reading the word. Become a whole person by yourself before meeting someone else. Prepare for this season. Date, get to know this person well, and then later on end up in marriage. I remember in this book called Keys to a Successful Ministry by Apostle William Kimani, there's a page there he talks about that if you do not get to know each other well in courtship, get to know the dislikes and the likes of this person, you will not be able to coexist properly in marriage. And marriage is as God wants it. How do I say this? Marriage, I know people say it's not for good, but marriage is commitment. Marriage is a covenant that you make to God. So you cannot decide for any particular reason. Let me actually say, for any particular reason, walk in and walk out of marriage. Like we do in courtship, you're like, you know what? I need a break. Or, marriage is a commitment. Marriage is a covenant. So if you do not do well in other seasons of your life, this season will be affected. You'll not be able to coexist properly in marriage. And I remember he was likening it to us being here on earth and getting to learn more about Jesus, getting to learn more about what he requires of me, and then we will be able to live together with him later on in heaven. So as I was telling now about the story of Miles Monroe, about us preparing, I feel like God took me through that journey of helping me relearn the things I had learned about marriage, helping me relearn the things I had thought about, courtship and all that, helping me relearn that marriage was entirely about me and what I wanted. God took this journey to actually help me relearn about this. So it was super exciting. And I was like, I am now embracing this season of me being single, knowing that one day I'm going to meet the kind of man that God would want for me. I'm going to meet that man one day, and we are going to God. So I better begin to prepare now for those future seasons of my life, for the dating and the courtship. So guys, this is where it all started. God made me come across this book, and God exposed me to articles of people that had done it before me as a godly relationship. People that had, there are articles out there, guys. If you go to YouTube, you'll find people talking about godly relationship, people that have gone before you. You'll find people who are single and loving it, and they have written blogs about it and articles about it, and those articles really changed my mind. And I began to realize, I am not in this season in vain, and I cannot afford to be miserable. I'm here to prepare for the seasons to come. I'm here to pursue God. I'm here to know more about myself. I'm here to, actually learn and relearn the things that I thought were true from the beginning, and they are no longer true. So guys, that's where it all started. That's where the journey of me being single and loving it all started. So guys, for the next episode, I'm going to tell you of the couple of things that I did during my singlehood, and I hope you guys will enjoy. They were exciting, and my singlehood journey began out to be amazing. So guys, watch out for my next video for part 2 of this, and I hope it will be a blessing to you. God bless, Sana. Bye bye.